Welcome, everyone, to tonight's episode of Signals from Mars. Joining me is Jeremy in the chat already. Edgar Winterson is firing away with all of his witty comments. And we're doing the 80s decade, the albums countdown. As usual, we've had people send in their 10 favorite albums of the decade. And we're going to do a lot of different things here, but I will encourage people to become patrons to get more content regarding this episode, because on the Patreon episode, it's actually episode 224 of the Victor M. Ruiz podcast. I go over the entire 77 album countdown. I go into more in-depth stuff with what we're going to discuss tonight. There's a lot of content to talk about, and I think I've got the perfect partner for the event. I think that there will be a lot of interesting comments from Jeremy and Edgar in the chat, and if anyone else joins us, you are very welcome to comment in the chat as well. So let's kick things off with number 10. Number 10 was released in October of 1986, a pivotal year for hard rock and heavy metal. The album is just 28 minutes and 58 seconds long across 10 tracks. One of the shortest yet most influential albums in metal history. The producer stripped away all the reverb and studio sheen, giving the album its razor-sharp, almost clinical sound. There's one track, the opening track, describes Holocaust atrocities, drew widespread accusations the band denied, insisting it was historical narrative, not an endorsement. The album's original distributor balked at the content, and Geffen ultimately decided to put its name on it. Def Jam Columbia handled the release. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm hoping that's factual and not just AI garbage. The closing track, which is the title track, is considered by many guitarists one of the most perfectly constructed metal songs ever. The two guitarists wrote lyrics largely independently, then combined them. The dark synergy was partly accidental. It is frequently cited as the record that fully realized thrash metal as a genre. Okay. We can skip that. Any ideas so far, Jeremy, what this might be?
I'm thinking, is it Slayer?
It's Slayer's Rain and Blood?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Good first guess.
I forgot to put the graphic up.
Number 10.
And to hit that.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, produced by Rick Rubin. I also read earlier today that I guess Def Leppard's manager, one of their managers, was also involved in the release of this album somehow through the label, and that they disconnected themselves from the project, I guess, because of the song Angel of Death. So this would be perfect for Ed Ferguson to talk about, but unfortunately he is not here.
Probably the most extreme album, I guess, that it's in the list in the 80s. And I'm thinking you can't have much heavier than that, but maybe you have.
We'll see. We'll see what the entire countdown, if you still feel the same way when we get to the end here. So,
Number 9.
Released May 25th, 1983. Produced by the lead singer of the band. This is the band's debut solo album. It's always talked about whether it is a solo album, whether it's a band or not. It has an iconic cover featuring the band's mascot. I'm not going to mention the mascot's name because it came up on Trivia Tuesday several times. And no, it wasn't Blue Saraceno that was on the cover. Let's see. The title track is widely regarded as one of the greatest heavy metal songs ever written. The phrase itself, the title track and the name of the album, came intuitively, and it wasn't, and when being written, wasn't entirely sure what it meant, but found it powerfully evocative.
I think I know this one.
What do you think it is?
I think it's Holy Diver. No?
Let's see. At number 9, released May 25th, 1983, produced by Ronnie James Dio. The mascot is Murray, and it is Holy Diver.
Whoa, got it.
Jeremy, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I don't know where to start on this one. I mean, I bought this on the day of release, and I was blown over. I mean, how can you not be blown over by it? There was so much power. There was so much melody, but power. Great songs throughout. We wondered really what he was going to be like as sort of a kind of solo artist. And you've mentioned, we don't know whether it was a band or a solo project. Let's call it, it doesn't really matter. He put together a formidable band, and there's just great riffs on there, great songs. And he kept that sort of, that evil image with all, obviously with the cover. Strange actually, because I nearly bought a copy this week because they've got a picture disc version now, a new one, which is a reasonable price as well. So I just thought, do you know what? I fancy buying that. It's just a classic. It's a real classic of our genre, isn't it? It's just an amazing album. I like most of the songs on there. There aren't that many fillers, and when you think about it, most 80s albums have the odd filler on there.
Right.
But there's some super tracks on there. Stand Up and Shout, I think, is the first one, isn't it? Oh, there you go, you got it.
But this isn't new. This is
that's the older picture disc. They've got a newer one with sort of a green type of devil on there, or the logo. Right. There's a newer type one that's come out, but anyway, you've got the classic version, which is great.
Yeah, when you said picture disc, I said I gotta pull my picture disc out.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, and what an interesting album. Other tidbits that are here that I didn't want to mention to give it away. Obviously, Vivian Campbell, who later joined Def Leppard, was here. He was only around 21 during the recording of this album.
Wow.
Vinny Appice also followed Dio over from Black Sabbath, providing direct personal links between the two bands. So cool. And on this note, folks, our next countdown will be the Ronnie James Dio countdown, as suggested by Jeremy. I think that's a great idea because we'll be able to vote on our favorite Dio albums, Black Sabbath, Rainbow, and even Elf if you want to vote on Elf album. And it'll be a fun discussion. So there's a lot of different eras to Dio and a lot of important music. So all right, let's move on here.
Number 8.
Okay, this was released May 3rd, 1988, produced by Peter Collins, who's known for producing this band, Rush, and a bunch of others. Can't say that yet. Can't say that. Can't say that. Okay, it was a commercial disappointment on release, peaking at number 50. Only years of word of mouth made it a recognized masterpiece. I call BS on that because this album had a huge amount of support on MTV in the States. There were songs that were on the radio, and their next album was even bigger, probably. But this is I think, for a lot of diehards, this is kind of the masterpiece. And there's a few of them there. There's more than one of this band's albums that were voted within this list, and we'll get to that later. Yeah, there really isn't much of the factoids that AI provided that I could really say without giving it away. But all right, so I'll read these off and let's see if you can get it. It is a full concept album telling the story of Nikki, a drug addict manipulated into becoming a political assassin, one of metal's most ambitious narratives.
I think I've got it.
You think you've got it?
I think so. Go on, keep going. Keep going. I'm not going to guess yet.
Okay.
Let me give you another clue.
Okay. The singer has said that the album was inspired by the political climate of the Reagan era and his disillusionment with American society.
It's not Mindcrime, is it?
What's that?
Is it Mindcrime?
It is.
Yeah, Mindcrime.
Operation Mindcrime at number 8.
Yeah.
It is actually behind me as well.
Great album.
Getting in the way. Right there in the corner there, bottom. Yeah, so released on May 3rd, 1988. This was the album that made me a Queensryche fan. I wasn't too keen on the Rage for Order or the EP. I mean, I knew Lady Wore Black. I knew Queen of the Reich. But it was one of these things where until I got into this album, like I didn't really go back and really get into those first few albums. I remember getting a CD player, and one of the reasons why I got it was because I wanted this. And I remember seeing the video for Eyes of a Stranger. And I wasn't totally hooked yet. I was like, yeah, I'm not into his voice. I wasn't into the voice yet for some reason, because I remember the previous videos and what they look like and all that. Edgar Winterson with the Queensryche references in the chat. And I remember hearing Revolution Calling, and it just got stuck in my head. And I was like, maybe I do like this. Maybe I need to put my asinine thoughts about this band aside and check this album out. So, and I think what kind of put me over the edge was the video for I Don't Believe in Love. Was when that third video came out is when I bought the CD. But it's one of my all-time favorite albums. Another thing that I do on the latest Patreon episode is that I do go over the albums that I voted for and my honorable mentions. Jeremy has seen a partial list of that because my honorable mentions have grown since me sending that list to you, because there's so many albums that after seeing other people's votes, I thought, damn, I didn't vote for this. That's such a great album and it's not there. So anyway, this is a monumental album, not only because of the concept behind it. Whenever people talk about, I don't want bands to sing about politics, I think this is a perfect example where bands should do whatever the hell they want. If they want to sing about politics, that's cool. It's my option to listen to it or not. There are so many bands from this time period: Queensryche, Warrior Soul was another band that ended up opening for Queensryche as well. Metallica has always had political lyrics as well. Iron Maiden has, even though they've dabbled in history and stuff, they've also used it as a vehicle for talking about current events, so on and so forth. So if a song is good, it's good. So that's it. What do you want to say about Mindcrime?
Yeah, I echo what you say. I mean, you just mentioned 3 tracks there that are on it, and they're absolute classics of their canon, aren't they? I saw them play those live actually in a festival, high voltage festival in London, with Jeff Tate singing just before he left the band, and it was amazing watching those songs being played. So yeah, it is a real classic. A little bit slightly dated, the concept feel to it, but the songs still shine through, and that's what matters. So yeah, you can understand why it's in the top 10. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mentioned those, but I mean, The Mission is a great song.
Yeah,
Sister Mary's a great song.
yeah. There's
The
more.
Needle, Speak the Word.
Yeah,
There's
and
just
yeah, and I was going to say the thing is, Jeff Tate's actually just done Mindcrime 3,
3. Yeah.
and we can't say much about it because we'll probably have to review this come the next review. So it's listeners can listen into our review of that one and compare and contrast, shall we say?
Yeah. There you go. Edgar's asking if Mindcrime 2 is better.
No.
Tis not, my friend.
No, we're agreed on that.
All right.
Number 7.
Okay, this was released on January 20th, 1983.
Oh,
what's that?
I was going to guess it straight away, but I'm not going to because I haven't got enough yet. Surely I haven't got enough.
Okay. This album spent 92 weeks on the Billboard 200 and sold over 10 million copies in the US alone. The album was meticulously recorded with guitar overdubs, which took weeks at a time. There are single notes that were re-recorded hundreds of times.
Whoa.
The album was recorded. No, I can't say that. Can't say that. The producer played piano and contributed backing vocals, but was credited minimally to keep focus on the band. The first video off of this album was played in heavy rotation in 1983 and became a defining moment of early MTV. And one of the founding members of the band was fired during the recording of this album. And the person that replaced him is still with the band today.
I'm still sticking with Def Leppard.
Which album?
It's Pyromania. Is it Pyromania? I can't. Yes. Oh, 100% record so far.
So it was released on January 20th, recorded by or produced by Robert John Mutt Lang. Pete Willis was fired during the recording sessions and replaced by Phil Collin. What else? Photograph was allegedly inspired by Marilyn Monroe, not a real life girlfriend, as many fans assumed. I mean, there's a likeness to her in the video behind Joe Elliott. And if I remember correctly, he had a poster of her behind his bed or something like that. That kind of inspired him. This is kind of a dumb fact, but the album was recorded while Rick Allen still had both arms. He lost his left arm in a car accident on New Year's Eve, 1983, after Pyromania's success. Phil Collin joined the band during this album, and it's funny because they tend to close their shows with Photograph. And they still say that Hysteria is their best album. I mean, my favorite is High and Dry, but
Hmm.
you can't go wrong with Pyromania either. Just so many memories. Just growing up and seeing that video, seeing the video for Foolin', seeing Rock Rock Till You Drop years later, I think, on some VHS. Oh, and they released a video for Me and My Wine during Pyromania as well. And I always thought that was such a neat concept that very few bands have done since, where they release a video for a track from a previous album. So I always thought that was cool. And this album is huge. And I've interviewed bands over the years. Armored Saint, who's just released an album, have pointed to Def Leppard as being a huge influence on them. A lot of US bands were big on those first Def Leppard albums. Unfortunately, a lot of what they influenced later through Hysteria was kind of a different genre. It wasn't that heavy metal hard rock. It was more of a pop or glam rock thing. So anyway, Pyromania.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of the middle ground between High and Dry and Hysteria, which was
Yeah.
kind of a nice thing because, like you know, I like High and Dry better. I'm not very keen on Hysteria. I like the odd songs on it. You know, it's the, you know, you got some hits on there, but Pyromania's got that sort of heavy hard rock feel to it, but it's got the commercial stuff as well, which is what the 80s was kind of all about, really. You know, we liked a bit of commercial heavy rock. And it was well produced. You know, you were saying that they've gone over and re-recorded bits all the time. That was the kind of thing they were into, which they you know turned into a craft later on on every album, I guess. But yeah, it's an absolute classic. It really broke big in America because you can see how it really appealed to the American market, because the American market was all about that kind of, you know, having those great songs with great you know, sort of sounds in your head when you know when you play them again and again. Commercialism. So that's what it was all about. And yeah, it's a great album. Great album. Deserves to be there.
Okay. Cool.
Number 6.
Okay, so this album also released in 83, but it's September, towards the end of the year, September 26th. Let's see. The album actually had several different album covers. The cover that I'm going to show you is not the one that I had originally, but the vinyl reissue that I have does have it. The cassette, which I own from way back in like 85 when I got it, had a different cover. The CD remastered version that I have has the classic cover as well. Let's see. What of these factoids can I read without giving this away? So lead vocals were recorded while the band was at peak excess. Several sessions reportedly had to be abandoned. The producer smoothed out many of the rougher edges. The band originally wanted it heavier and rawer. It was the band's first album to crack the US top 20, breaking them into the mainstream. Edgar may be onto something here.
Oh, he's got it.
Released September 26, 1983. Produced by Tom Werman. Any thoughts on what it might be?
Well, I think you're giving it away. It's Motley Crue. Is it Shout at the Devil?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So the album's pentagram cover art and satanic imagery caused massive controversy and bans across the U.S. Bible Belt. Despite or because of the controversy, it went triple platinum and established Motley Crue as a defining glam metal band. Nikki Sixx has said the satanic imagery was primarily a marketing tool meant to shock and provoke, not promote actual Satanism. Their cover of the Beatles' Helter Skelter caused some unease due to the song's association with Charles Manson. Love this album. This was my number 3, and it was difficult for me to choose between it being 2 or 3 because I've listened to this album so much. I have 3 different copies of this album. I've owned 4 copies of it, and I may have a 4th copy. I may have this on CD twice.
Hmm.
The reason that I got it a second time is because the original CD copy just does not sound as good as the cassette. It was way too flat. It just did not sound good. So, this is another album that just has song after song after song, which is just great. The title track, Shout at the Devil, into Look That Kill, into Bastard, into God Bless the Children of the Beast, which is just like an instrumental, which goes into Helter Skelter. Side 2 started off with Red Hot. Too fast to fall in love. Too young to fall in love. Knock 'em Dead Kid, 10 Seconds to Love, and then Danger. I mean, just such a great album start to finish. I remember seeing the video for Look That Kill and saying, oh my God, they're wearing makeup like Kiss. This sounds kind of like Creatures of the Night-ish. This is my music. This is what I really love right now. So I need to get this. There was another album from another band that I don't want to mention, which is kind of the first hard rock and metal album that I picked up after Kiss. Like I'd only bought Kiss for years, but I'm pretty confident to say that Shout at the Devil was probably number 3 for me. At least Motley Crue was the 3rd band that I'd bought for my own. So love this. Wish they would return to this sound on stuff that they released. That looks like that will never happen again. But we have this golden period with their first 3 albums to me, which are just all 3 are fantastic. So Jeremy, your thoughts on Shout at the Devil?
Yeah, I've got a copy of this because I've got the box set of all the the Motley Crue stuff. And the interesting thing for me is that they did change a lot over the years, and I like all their kind of progression. So I like this early stuff. It's rawer, and I can see why you prefer it. I like, the latest stuff. I like the commercial stuff as well. If I'm in the mood for any type of Motley Crue, it's a nice band that you can kind of listen to different stuff. I was really interested by the Helter Skelter version because I thought it really worked on the album, even though, it's a Beatles cover and you kind of think, well, is it just a bit of an add-on and it would be a bit weird? But it kind of works. And yeah, I like this sort of version of Motley Crue just as much as the other. So yeah, I can see why it was quite high.
Interestingly enough, now that you mention that, and I remember when they were selling tickets for that tour, Helter Skelter was what they played in the advert for the show.
Okay.
I remember it was the classic thing on New York radio. Ron Delsner presents Motley Crue at whatever. I think that was at the Nassau County Coliseum in Uniondale, Long Island. And then you would hear, Helter Skelter. And then they would say whatever. Touring for this album. They've already sold, whatever. So I always thought that was pretty neat. And the remaster that I have has some of the extra tracks which are no longer like available anywhere on streaming, so I've had to like re-add them. There's a song called I Will Survive, which I really like. There's Louder Than Hell, which is on Theater of Pain, was originally recorded during Shout at the Devil, and it was called Hotter Than Hell instead.
Okay.
So another like Kiss kind of connection there with Motley Crue. And then there's Black Widow, which was like that song that was always on the demo tapes that people would say, "Oh, you need to hear this song." And I have the demos for this on cassette in the next room. And I bought it specifically to hear that for the first time. Now that appears on Music to Crash Your Car To, which is kind of a poorly named compilation given all of the deaths and different things that have been associated to Motley Crue over the years with car accidents, but that's kind of their thing. So whenever I've done like a Motley Crue compilation, I've actually slotted that in before Helter Skelter, which is where it kind of fits on the demo. So neat. So let's get on to
Number 5.
okay. Released September 20th, 1980. Again, first solo album after quitting or being fired from a predominant band, depending on who you speak to.
Blizzard.
Okay. Guitarist Randy Rhoads was classically trained musician teaching guitar lessons at a music school when Ozzy auditioned him. Ozzy has said he was so drunk during the recording sessions that he barely remembers making the album. The bass and drum tracks were controversially re-recorded in 2002 without the original players, Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake, sparking a major league dispute and fan backlash. Mr. Crowley was inspired by occultist Aleister Crowley. Ozzy later admitted he knew almost nothing about Crowley and was just drawn to the dramatic name. It's funny if you see Zakk Wylde's interview with Billy Corgan, he talks about that he took him to like his apartment for the first time and he had this big painting of Aleister Crowley and he showed it to Ozzy. And Ozzy says to him, who's that bloke? And he was like, you wrote a song about him. So, yeah, so that proves that he didn't know who Aleister Crowley was. Randy Rhoads died in a plane accident on March 19th, 1982, making the album and Diary of a Madman his entire recording legacy with Ozzy. The album cover was taken in Sharon Arden, later Sharon Osbourne's parents' garden. All right. Produced by Max Norman, Ozzy, and Randy Rhoads. So, yeah, we've already said it. Lizard. We've talked about this album quite a bit recently, especially because we did the guitar albums countdown, and this was number 2 or 3. So we talked in depth about Ozzy, his importance, Randy Rhoads' importance with all types of rock and metal. Just a fantastic album. This was something that I had a hard time picking what Ozzy album I was going to go with. I ultimately went with this on my list just because of our recent discussion. And it's just a hugely important album. It is very important. My biggest issue with the album at the moment is just burnout. I've listened to the song so many times that if I listen to Ozzy, I'm going for something else. But I appreciate and understand how monumental this album is. For you, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, similar thing. I mean, it's interesting because it came out, you said 29th of August, 1980. And of course, I know that on that day I got a bus into town and I went to the record store and I bought it. So I know that on that date, I actually bought it on the first day and brought it home. And I wanted to know what the Black Sabbath singer was going to be like. And it didn't disappoint. You know, I played the I Don't Know, and obviously Crazy Train blew my mind. Mr. Crowley blew my mind, but it's got a lot of light and dark on it because it's got a few little sort of softer bits. There's a ballad there, a little sort of instrumental bit in between, and it's kind of so well crafted. It's of its time, but it's still timeless. And it kind of just put him out there as if to say, I'm back. And it wouldn't have been the same if we didn't have Randy on, because obviously he's the guy who's doing all this guitar work. And what you said is quite interesting, because I'm the same. I play it sometimes in the car, and I've just heard it and heard it. But one day I'm just going to play the vinyl. I'm just going to put it on in the house, play it really loud when nobody's around, and just really enjoy it for what it is. Because sometimes you can hear different things in an album, can't you, which you've not heard for a while. Absolute classic. No surprise it's in the top 5. No surprise, because it wouldn't just be me and you voting for this. I think everyone will have it in their top 10.
Yeah, I think the most controversial album on here is going to be number 4.
Okay. Interesting.
Number 4.
So this was released October 13th, 1982. This marked a major creative comeback for the band after several critically panned attempts at disco and pop.
Disco and pop.
A prominent member of the band appears on the cover, and he barely plays on the album, if at all. It was a commercial disappointment on original release, but is now considered one of their finest heavy albums.
Is it Kiss?
Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were intentionally steering the band back towards hard rock after failed soft rock era of Dynasty and Unmasked. A 1985 reissue added, see, this is completely wrong. It says 1985 reissue added Vinnie Vincent's photo to the album cover, replacing the original makeup era artwork. Folks, this is why AI still isn't up to speed. It is Bruce Kulick who appears on the cover. It is not Vinnie Vincent. It is the last studio album to feature the band with their iconic makeup before they unmasked for Lick It Up. The album is dedicated to the memory of Casablanca Records founder Neil Bogart, who signed the band. It was produced by Michael James Jackson and Kiss.
Creatures
of the Night.
What an album.
If you've listened to the show at any length, this is my all-time favorite album. For a lot of reasons. I always talk about experience and emotional connections. This came out October 13th, 1982. My grandfather passed away October 8th, 1982. And that was the first time that I knew of death in my family, and of somebody that I was close to, somebody that I loved. And I remember I was asked, because my birthday is October 20th, so it was a week after the album was released, I was asked what I wanted, and I said, latest Kiss album. My grandmother bought it for me. When she came to stay with us for a year after my grandfather's passing. And it was right place, right time. The heaviness of the album, the lyrics, it was there for me to help me through that trying time. I get the importance of the band in the 70s. I get that the tour didn't sell shit. I get that there's all this stuff with who actually played on the album, who gets credit, who's this, who's that. As a 9-year-old, I didn't care. All I cared about was the music. And to this day, yes, did Vinnie Vincent play on it? Yes. Did Steve Ferris play on it? Yes. Did this person, that person play on it? Yes. I don't care, because the songs are just great. The album is great beginning to end. I love it. It is one of my most listened to albums of all time. And it is there for me for the good the bad, and the in between. It is an album that I never get tired of because of what it's meant to me in some of those difficult times in my life, and even, as I'm saying, some of the better times in life. Yeah, there's nothing more I can say about it. If you listen to the show, you know that I've talked about this album ad nauseum. I've recently been on Hooligan Nation, and I defended this album against Love Gun. So that's how much I love this album. Jeremy, for you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't have the sort of affinity with it going back in time. I sort of came to it later, but that's the case with a lot of Kiss studio albums. I think I bought it in the past year, and I sent you a message at the time. Do you remember saying, how good is Creatures of the Night, or something along those lines? And you sort of agreed. And I play it regularly, and I think it is my favorite Kiss album. I think it's a very cohesive product, whereas a lot of their albums, I like 4 or 5 songs on each album, but I don't like everything sometimes, or the sound isn't quite right, and I never get why a lot of Kiss fans say Destroyer is the best album. It's got to be Destroyer, or it's got to be this, or it's got to be that. To me, it's got to be Creatures. I mean, it is their best album. And so I fully understand what you're saying. And I didn't actually vote for it in my top 10, only because we're dealing with the whole of the 1980s here. And obviously, another day, I could have easily put it as number 1. So, yeah.
Yeah. This is hard, folks. This is picking 10 albums for an entire decade. It is hard. It was not easy. And I knew it was going to be hard. And everyone, there isn't one person that voted on this that didn't say, that was hard. Why is it only 10? I could easily have, easily done 30. And I said, right. And then you would have turned in 30 and would have asked for 50. And then once you got to 50, you would have said, how about 100? So listen, there's a lot of great music that came out in that decade. So I get it. All right.
Number 3.
Okay, so this was released July 25th, 1980, produced by somebody that I've already mentioned. This is the second best-selling album of all time, behind only Michael Jackson's Thriller with 50 million copies sold. Folks, let me just tell you this.
AC/DC.
I may be a conspiracist with this for whatever, however you want to call me, but I don't believe that Thriller is the biggest selling album of all time, because Michael Jackson has had a lot of inflated numbers over the years. For example, there is a number out there where they say he's sold 72 million singles, which that is a number that a PR person pulled out of thin air and said, well, he's released 19 singles. If I multiply it by this number, I get 72 million. There's no fact to back it up. And back then, they counted albums shipped, not albums sold. The music business is very corrupt. So a lot of albums by a lot of big bands ended up in landfills, ended up in the ocean, and they all counted as sales. So there's that. Anyway, the entire black cover was a deliberate tribute to the band's late singer Bon Scott, who died February 19th, 1980. Brian Johnson was hired as the new vocalist after Scott's death, despite initially turning down the audition. He was working as a tile layer at the time. The album was recorded at Compass Point Studios in Nassau, Bahamas, partly to escape the UK tax system. You Shook Me All Night Long was the first AC/DC single to crack the US top 40. The bell heard on Hell's Bells was a real 2,000-pound bell cast in, I'm going to butcher this name, Loughborough, England.
Loughborough, Yeah.
Loughborough. See,
Mm.
told you. AC/DC had never played with Brian Johnson before sessions began. They essentially rehearsed and recorded simultaneously. So it was produced by Mutt Lange as well, like Pyromania. The only song that I cannot listen to off of this album is "You Shook Me All Night Long" because I've heard it so
No.
many
Oh,
times.
right. Okay.
Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, this is this album is massive. It's so much to so many people. Edgar, you got it as well. Back in Black. So much to so many people. It's been in movies. As recent as a few years back, 2 years ago, 3 years at this point. Deadpool versus Wolverine had Hell's Bells start ringing when a fight scene broke out between the two main characters. It is just epic, played into that movie. And AC/DC is a band that crosses rock and metal into pop, into other genres. People say, "Oh, well, they're not metal." Right, they're not metal, but most metal bands listen to AC/DC or have influenced them one way or another. So, what I never realized was that Bon Scott died in February and this was recorded in July, that it was that quick of a sequence. I thought that a year or so had passed, but that kind of lends itself to the rumors that maybe everything was written before Brian even joined the band. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a feeling they did have a lot of the songs ready, and the Bomb was going to sing quite a few of them. Yeah.
yeah, I got to interview Jesse Finch, I think his name is. I'm sorry if I'm screwing that up. He wrote a book called The Youngs, and it was about the Malcolm and Angus and their older brother George, and he has always said that when Bond died, they kind of inherited some notebooks of Bond's with lyrics. And for example, he always points to "You Shook Me All Night Long" as being Bond-esque in the lyrics. And he's always talked about how, for those about to rock's lyrical content is so different to Back in Black. And that's kind of the trajectory that the lyrics had after, because those were written by Brian Johnson as opposed to Bond. So unless Angus writes a book, which I doubt will happen because he doesn't need the money, I doubt we'll ever know.
No. No.
So,
Big.
what's Back in Black to you?
Yeah, well, Back in Black is part of me. It's part of my heart. It's part of everyone's heart who's a hard rock and heavy metal fan, because I don't know any hard rock fan who hasn't got a copy of it. But I don't know many people who don't like rock or metal much who haven't got a copy of it, because AC/DC like you say, they break down those barriers of music. And I know people who just like AC/DC and they don't like any other rock or metal. There's something about them, they're amazing. What surprises me, and I kind of heard Brad Doll in my head shouting, "Why is this number 3? How is this not number 1, Victor?" I can hear him shouting it. It's incredible that it's not number 1, because it's
This is
well,
my Brad Dahl impersonation for the
yeah.
day, trying to get the stuff to go
It-
up on the screen. We love
he'd
you,
be
Brad.
he'd be shouting at the screen saying, "How is this not number 1?" Because it should. I mean, on another day it could have been. We know that. I bought this on the day it released again. Another one. I was very sad when Bond died. I was waiting to hear it. I'd been into Highway to Hell. Another great album. And the two of them are like children, aren't they? They're like, you can't choose between them because they're just so fantastic.
Yeah,
And still play it to this day, now and again, when you're just in the mood, stick it on in the car, sing along to it because you know all the lyrics. And that's what music's all about. You have those little favorites that are close to you and they'll never leave you.
absolutely. Yeah. I have the vinyl behind me that my brother got in 1980.
Mm.
And I remember listening to this ad nauseum. Side one, side two, side one, side two. It was,
Mm.
like as if you're flipping a burger. You're making sure that both sides get equals amount of coverage. So,
Mm. But they made a mistake. They should have opened with Back in Black, shouldn't they, on the side one?
a lot of people say that, but Hell's Bells is the first song is just so iconic. Hell's
Yeah.
Bells and To Shoot the Thrill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an impressive 1-2 punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so where am I?
Number 2.
Okay, released July 21st, 1987. Produced
Cool.
by Mike Klink.
Ooh.
It is the best-selling debut album in US history,
Guns and Roses.
having sold 30 million copies worldwide.
Yeah.
The album was initially rejected by every major label until Geffen Records A&R man Tom Zoot signed them after one live show. The original cover, a robot assault scene painted by Robert Williams, was deemed too controversial and replaced with the now iconic Cross and Skulls logo. Sweet Child of Mine grew out of a guitar exercise Slash was noodling on as a joke, and he didn't think the riff was serious. The band was so broke during the recordings that several members were essentially living in the studio's equipment room. Paradise City was written in a van on the way back from a gig, with band members contributing lines on the spot. The album spent 147 weeks on the Billboard 200, fueled largely by MTV rather than radio. Yeah, I don't know about that because there was plenty of radio play for this. I remember, and what hooked me onto this, I mentioned this during the guitar albums episode, is that I heard Eddie Trunk play Night Train. And I was like, what is that? I didn't associate it with the band that they were playing the Welcome to the Jungle video. Then Sweet Child of Mine came out. The album blew up. Mr. Brownstone and, It's So Easy. I mean, all of this was on rotation on MTV. They had a show from the Ritz where they'd play the It's So Easy portion of it, which is what they used to open up the show. When we discuss everything that we're going to discuss moving forward, and I mentioned this during the Patreon episode that I recorded in conjunction with this, understand that Guns N' Roses, this is their only album on there, and they're going to rank high on a lot of things, and just from one album. So consider that. What are your thoughts on Appetite?
Yeah, I was just thinking of other bands where they just really only release one massive album. Thinking maybe Montrose and maybe one or two others are out there. But yeah, I actually went round. I had a friend of mine who I visited one day, and he just bought this. And I was around there with a few other friends, and he put it on. He bought it, and he put it on. He said, "Have a listen to this." So we looked at. I looked, and I thought, "Well, go on then." And he played it, and then he looked at me in the eyes. He stared at me in the eyes, and I looked at him, and I had my mouth open. And it was one of those, you know what it's like when you go around to your mates' houses and you used to put on those records. And I'd never heard anything so fresh and so with it and so different, really, because of that guitar, Slash and but they could all play. They could all play, and even though they were all like kind of kids that were more interested in the women and the drugs and the the rock and roll lifestyle, they couldn't half play on this album. And they had the songs, didn't they? I mean, you've just mentioned a few of them. Incredible number of songs on this album, probably about 6 or 7 that are top draw. And to have them all on a debut album, it was only one way down, only one way after this, and it was slightly down because I don't know how you could better it. You can't. And this is why it's number 2. put them on the map, kept them on the map, and even if they'd only released this one album, like you're saying before, they'd still be massive,
Right.
which is weird. Because we know all these bands that have released, 20, 30 studio albums over the years, and Guns N' Roses have released, the next couple of albums had some good songs on, but after that, there was nothing really that was of any note. And yet they're incredible musicians who've gone on and done other stuff as well, but incredible. Welcome to the Jungle, is just a song that everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who's into all sort of music. Amazing. I think I should play it more, really. I think I just ignore it, and I should play it a bit more than I do. We talked about AC/DC. There are other bands that we play regularly, but I don't play this regularly enough, and I should.
That's your assignment for today.
Yeah.
Play it more.
I'll play it tomorrow.
Yeah. Edgar, to your point, yes, I'm not saying that Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 were not big albums. I'm just saying in relation to what we're going to talk about for the balance of the episode, you'll get my point in a little bit. So,
Number 10.
Rain and Blood by Slayer.
Number 9.
Holy Diver, Dio.
Number 8.
Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime.
Number 7.
Pyromania, Def Leppard.
Number 6.
Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue.
Number 5.
Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz.
Number 4.
Kiss, Creatures of the Night.
Number 3.
AC/DC, Back in Black.
Number 2.
Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. What do you think is the number one?
Wow, that's it. That's an incredible, difficult question because there's so many albums that we haven't gone through. It could be an Iron Maiden one. It could be a Metallica. I just think maybe it's going to be one of those. But of course, those bands have had more than one album in the 80s, so it could have got split. It could be Megadeth, because I know you guys, you put Megadeth quite high. So I'm thinking it's maybe one of those three bands.
Who usually ends up on top on all our lists?
It's Iron Maiden.
Okay, so number one was released March 3rd, 1986. Recorded at Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark. The band chose the studio because it was cheaper than American studios.
The Seventh Son.
The title track runs 8 minutes, 35 seconds and has never been released as a commercial single. The album was certified 6 times platinum in the US, despite receiving virtually zero radio airplay at the time of release. A famous urban legend claims the crosses on the album cover are marijuana plants. They are actually crosses on graves, referencing the lyrical theme of war and drug controlling humanity. In 2016, it was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Any thoughts so far?
I think it's Master of Puppets.
James Hetfield broke his wrist skateboarding during the recording sessions, yet still played rhythm guitar through the injury. Edgar mentioned it in the chat. Was recorded by Flemming Rasmussen. It is Master of Puppets. The title track, as was said here, was never commercially released, but it is at this point in time the biggest song to ever come off of this album. It has been all over the radio the last 30 years. It has been used in Stranger Things. so on and so forth. For a lot of people, there's an emotional connection to this album because of the last album with Cliff Burton on it before he passed away.
Mm.
It is a huge, huge album, and it is no surprise to me that it is number one. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Master of Puppets?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise at Metallica number one, because you could have said, Ride the Lightning could have been, in very high in people's lists, and therefore, opens the way for a Maiden album. Master of Puppets, though, yeah, I mean, it's a perfect album in terms of the songs that are on it. I probably like both of them equally. But it's you hark back to those early days of Metallica and you think, why are they not doing this sort of stuff again? But it's hard to recreate it. It was there's just some incredible songs on there. I mean, and I've seen a few of them live as well, and they come across really well. It's no surprise that they're there. I mean, they are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, metal bands around at the moment. You could arguably say they're bigger than Maiden. I don't know.
No,
Difficult to
no,
say.
they are. They're the biggest selling metal band of all time. And at this point in time, I mean, they sell more tickets and make a lot more money than Maiden does. Maiden does great, but Metallica's on a different level.
Yeah, and it's weird, isn't it? Because they're a thrash band as well, really, at their heart. They're not really a commercial band, whereas, Maiden are a bit more commercial, I think, in their sound. So, it's amazing that they've done that. And, this is a sort of album, you play it loud, play it how it's meant to be on a vinyl, stick the volume up a little bit, and you can't beat it. But it's one of those amongst many in this 80s era, and it just shows you the quality of the albums we're talking about. Any of these top 10 albums could be number one.
Yeah.
They're all different sounds, but they're so individual that you only have to hear one song off each of these albums and you know immediately what band it is.
Right.
That's what makes them unique.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of cool about this era, was that there weren't so many copycat bands that were rising to the top. So each album sounds different, each band sounds different, and it helped make it a great era of music.
Yeah. Yeah, I just talked about how Guns N' Roses are great musicians. Metallica are amazing musicians as well. To be able to do this stuff at speed, do all these changes with keys and all that sort of stuff, you have to be a very good musician to do it, and they all are.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool. So now we're going to get into some other information that I was able to extrapolate from the voting process. So you talked about it before, where there are bands that have multiple albums on the list. So if we did this based on combined albums, this is how it would all shake out. At number 10, it would be Dio with Holy Diver and Last in Line. Yep. Number 9, Def Leppard with Pyromania and Hysteria. The majority of those votes went to Pyromania, by the way. Number 8, Judas Priest. We haven't mentioned them in the top 10, but here, Defenders of the Faith, British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, all had similar numbers in voting. And then Turbo was a bit behind, but those 4 albums got voted for. Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, Too Fast for Love, and Girls, Girls, Girls. That's number 7 with combined albums. Number 6 with one album, Guns N' Roses. Number 5, Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz, Ultimate Sin, Bark at the Moon, No Rest for the Wicked, and Diary of a Madman all got voted for. Kiss, 4 albums, Creatures of the Night, Crazy Nights, Lick It Up, and Unmasked all received votes. Number 3, AC/DC with Back in Black and For Those About to Rock. Number 2, Iron Maiden, Power Slave, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Peace of Mind, Number of the Beast, and Somewhere in Time. Believe it or not, Power Slave got the most votes, with Seventh Son, Peace of Mind, and Number of the Beast getting almost the same votes. Number 1, Metallica with Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, and Injustice for All. So again, this shows that had we have done, one band, if we would have done this on the band level and people would have considered all of the albums, this seems about reasonable. It doesn't switch, it doesn't go that far out of the top 10 that we saw. I mean, the only difference is what? Queensryche. Queensryche is in that top 10. And Judas Priest is in this top 10.
Yeah, and Iron Maiden.
And Iron Maiden, that's right.
Yeah, because obviously Iron Maiden, so many albums, so many great albums, it's bound to get split, bound to get diluted. Yeah. And Judas Priest, like you say, at least 3 of those are absolute classics.
Yeah. Yeah. So Queensryche and Slayer's the other one. That. All right. So if we go by family trees, so we cross over from different bands who share members or different things that went across to one another. At number 6, we would have Deep Purple, Whitesnake, with the 1987 and Perfect Strangers being voted on.
Oh yeah, good album.
5th would be the Kiss family tree with those Kiss albums that I just mentioned, plus the debut album from Fraley's Comet also got votes. At number 4, the Guns N' Roses LA Guns connection. So Appetite for Destruction plus LA Guns debut album. Let's see here. Number 3 would be skip that. This is wrong. So this is where AI fucked up again. It is 5. It is Deep Purple. It is Kiss. It is Guns N' Roses. 3 made no sense. So 3, they threw Iron Maiden in there. They're all Iron Maiden albums. There's no Paul Di'Anno Battle Zone in there. So, makes 0 sense. So there's really only 5 here. At 2, it is Metallica with the Metallica albums plus Megadeth's Peace Sells and Megadeth's So Far So Good So What. But at number 1, it is the Black Sabbath family tree. And this is combining Ozzy, Dio, and Def Leppard, because we've got the Vivian Campbell connection.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
not a bad family to have.
And not a bad family to have. All right. So there's 2 more things like this that we're going to touch upon real quickly here. Producers. So we have 5 producers here. We have at number 5, Max Norman, who produced 3 Ozzy albums. Number 4 is Tom Werman, who produced Shout at the Devil, Twisted Sister's Stay Hungry, Motley Crue's Girls, 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 and Dawkins' Tooth and Nail. So not a shabby resume at all there.
Yeah.
It actually says here that he produced 23 gold and platinum albums in total, also working with Cheap Trick, Ted Nugent, Poison, and Blue Oyster Cult. Number 3, Martin Birch.
Yeah, obviously.
The Maiden albums that I mentioned, plus Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules.
Yeah.
Number 2, Fleming Rasmussen. Yeah. for the 3 Metallic albums that he worked on: Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, and Justice for All. He actually co-produced these albums. So, and number 1 is Mutt Lange, between Back in Black, Pyromania, For Those About to Rock, and Hysteria. So there you go. Well, actually,
he did the Cult as well, didn't he? Did he do Electric?
No, that's I think that was Rick Rubin.
Oh, okay. I thought it was someone who did an AC/DC style to it, and I thought it was. Anyway, you may be right. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
And actually, this is someplace else where I would go with a different order. I would actually put Fleming Rasmussen first, and Mutt Lange second. Why? Because they tied in total points, but Metallica did it with 1 less album.
You're right, by the way. It is Rick Rubin. Strange.
Yeah.
I always thought it was. Yeah.
All right. So
that's another album, by the way, that didn't even make anywhere, but it's a great album. What about Scorpions? Scorpions never finished on the list either.
If you check out my my Patreon episode, which I know you will, that is something that I discuss. So the final thing here, it is labels. What labels or grouping of labels put out these albums? So there's 13 here. On Patreon, I discuss all 13. What we'll do for the sake of time here is we'll do top 5. So at 5, we have Geffen Records, which Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and Whitesnake by Whitesnake. Number 4, Mercury Polygram, which has Pyromania, Slippery When Wet, Cinderella's Night Songs, Scorpions' Love at First Sting, Kiss's Crazy Nights, LA Guns by LA Guns, Rush Signals, Warlock Triumph and Steel, Kiss Lick It Up, Cinderella Long Cold Winter, Def Leppard Hysteria, and Deep Purple Perfect Strangers.
Wow, what a list of albums.
Number 3, CBS. This group contains Columbia, Epic, CBS, Jet, and Pasha. So this has Blizzard of Oz, Defenders of the Faith, British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, Journey Escape, Quiet Riot Metal Health, The Ultimate Sin, Turbo, The Final Countdown by Europe, Bark at the Moon, Vices by Kick Axe, No Rest for the Wicked, Diary of a Madman, Alice Cooper, Thrash. Out of all of the Accept albums that were voted for, or that could have been voted for, only 1 made the list. Eat the Heat. The one with David Reese on vocals.
Got to be Brad.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't Brad.
It wasn't Brad.
No.
So there's that. And then there's Shark Island. Law of Order is also in that grouping. Number 2 is the conglomerate of EMI Capital. So Operation Mindcrime, Power Slave, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Peace of Mind, Number of the Beast, Wasp, The Headless Children. Wow. Okay. So I messed up on my Patreon show because I said nobody voted for Wasp, and actually the Headless Children did make the list. I think 2 people voted for that album. Marillion's Misplaced Childhood, So Far So Good So What, Saxon, Innocence No Excuse, excuse me. Marillion, Clutching at Straws, Somewhere in Time, and Queensryche, Rage for Order.
It's a lot of good albums there as well.
But number 1, Warner Brothers, Elektra, Atlantic, Atco, so on and so forth. Master of Puppets, Back in Black, Shout at the Devil, Holy Diver, Twisted Sisters, Stay Hungry, Heaven and Hell, Ride the Lightning, Too Fast for Love, Last in Line, For Those About to Rock, Dokken, Back for the Attack, and Justice for All, Skid Row by Skid Row, Girls, 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 Rat, Out of the Cellar, Black Sabbath, Mob Rules, White Lion, Pride, Dokken, Tooth and Nail, and Rat, Dancing Undercover.
What a list of albums that is. Are you saying that's Warner Brothers?
That's,
is that?
Yes.
Don't they also
Electra Atlantic? That group.
They also have Bugs Bunny as well, don't they?
They have Bugs Bunny as well.
They are the top dogs. That is a worthy number one. No doubt about it.
There you go. So I mean, this to me, this is interesting because just to see what bands were signed to what labels were putting out good music. You know, there's some other here that, again, if you check out the Patreon episode, you will hear me discuss all of the other labels that were included. I go more in depth into the into all of this stuff that I've brought up here. So
it's interesting, isn't it, that these labels, they actually invested in these bands and brought them on. You know, a lot of the bands sometimes have a go at the labels because they keep a lot of the money. But they, you know, if you look at those, the roster that some of these have, and they knew that these bands would release these great music, and they did.
Yeah, I agree. So, Jeremy, this has been a fun discussion. A lot of great music here.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this about Appetite, where you're going to go back and listen to it. The reason that we do these shows is to turn people onto albums that maybe they haven't listened to in the past, or revisit an album that they haven't listened to in a long time. Either one works, folks. Whatever works for you guys. So on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. We will be back next week. We'll be back for the following few weeks. There's a lot of stuff going on here. It will be a busy summer for Signals from Mars. Edgar, thank you for joining us in the chat. Jeremy, thank you as always for helping the show and being my co-pilot for tonight. It is always great to have you on. And that is it, folks. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments. Let us know. Let us know which of these albums would have made your list, which ones you would have never voted for, which one, if any, stood out to you. And that is that. We will see you next time right here on Signals from Mars. See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.